Welcome to Galactic Explorers with myself, Dallas, and the lovely and wild, as always, Daniella. Welcome to the podcast where we take you on a joyride through earthly, spiritual, and everyday topics explored with galactic perspective. Today, we're going to pull from our galactic bowl of topics and see what the universe wants us to explore.
What
You
are
ready?
we got for us today?
Let's do this.
Do it.
All right.
I'm excited.
Excited. Oh, snap. Aliens.
Aliens. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I don't want to do it too much. No, but really, I love that guy and I love that show, and it's
Fascinating.
It's fascinating, and the amount of attention and awareness that it has brought to the topic, I think, in and of itself, is superb for just consciousness reasons. But we can get into that in a minute, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So
especially
aliens.
from a early civilization, right? He brings like that into
Mhm. Yeah, that's mostly what Ancient Aliens is about. Is
Yeah.
that the whole idea that the ancient historical past and biblical times and all of these things were, actually populated with extraterrestrial activity that was just misinterpreted as either angels or gods or what have you. Because, it's kind of like the idea of if you showed them an airplane from today, they wouldn't have any basis of reference to understand what it actually was. So they would probably call it something, like a metal bird, or, it's like,
Right.
they would assign a myth to it. Like if they fucking saw this thing that like made all of this noise and, flew across the sky without beating its wings, like, so it's kind of that theory expanded is kind of what Ancient Aliens, in a sense,
Right.
is trying to get across, is that maybe not everything in the past was actually just all this mythological stuff. Maybe there was actually some other. So I like the smoke from my incense is going right in my face, so maybe I should move it.
Smoke follows beauty. Come on now.
Oh yeah, right.
It's like something mystical.
But yeah, I guess that's more or less the premise of that idea, is that maybe it just wasn't,
Of course.
it's in gods and stuff. It was potential actual interaction between us and other extraterrestrial species that obviously probably do exist, because there's like what, a billion sun-like stars that they found in our universe, and each one of those has like potentially anywhere from 2 to 3 planets that could be in the Goldilocks zone and support life. So that's like the probability of there not being technically some kind of extraterrestrial life. And now I sound like David Childress.
It's all right, man.
Some kind of life, which I love, by the way. And I saw him in AlienCon 2018. It was amazing. BT dubs. Yes, I've gone, and yes, I'm one of those on occasion. But a lot of it's true, I think.
Well,
It makes, there's no there's no way that there isn't some kind of technically extraterrestrial life somewhere out there other than here.
right.
It just doesn't make sense when you break down the numbers.
No.
That the probability of it would not, So that's, there you go. Aliens in a nutshell. Ancient Aliens too in a nutshell.
Ancient aliens. Yeah, I mean,
Which again, I love that show, but there's some things that make you wonder, and then some things are like, yeah, okay, I might buy that.
Well, okay, so how should we go about this then? How should we talk about aliens? Because aliens is such a huge topic in so many ways that what do you think?
We just covered it in popular culture a little bit. Ancient Aliens.
Ancient aliens.
I know. Yeah, there's contact, there's abduction, there's talking about it from our perspective historically. our experiences with it, because we both had, have had what we would consider more or less psychic and dreamtime interactions with beings that were not of this dimensional or physical plane.
Yeah. Let's go there. That feels
Extraterrestrial.
good.
Right.
I think that's interesting. I think that's a good topic that we should stray that way, because I think a lot of people do have experiences with extraterrestrials and they just really don't know it, because it's really they're all energy, right? They come through an energy source. They're just a vibration. It's not like we really have a little green man standing on the side of my bed that's prodding me. I'm not saying that's not really not a case, but
right, that doesn't happen, because I feel like, yeah, sometimes it does.
leave that one outside.
We'll do that one. We'll do abductions and stuff like that, physical abductions, another day. Aliens 2.0.
Right?
The Midwest.
The Midwest. Oh.
Let's not bring the cow mutilations into it, because that's just nasty. But that's also a part of it too.
Right.
So it's an interesting wide branch, but it would, I think, be of benefit, maybe to people to talk about what our experiences have been with them, because they've been both benign and benevolent, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
There has been a little bit of slight malevolence. Most of that is kind of blanketed in the sense that it's not directly directed towards us, like personally, but is more like a collective type thing. Yeah, it's like where you get caught in the web of, well, if everybody's getting to this personal level of vibration, then you're like tapping into, it's almost like they have it's almost like an alarm sensory system or something, when a section of the collective brings its consciousness awareness to a frequency level that taps, it's like it hits on a certain level. It almost like sets off alarms, and then all of a sudden people start having problems, and it's like the more money, more problems, thing, but it's like spiritual, where it's like the new level, new devil. It's like every time the collective paps up, it's something comes to dampen it, but again, it's not personal. It's just like part of almost like a automated system.
Yeah, I see it like a web, right? Or like a blanket. I feel is over, and if we reach the capacity, then it's like, oh, let's see what they're gonna do about this.
Right. It triggers a reaction or a response.
Yes.
From the opposition, we'll say, in these games, in these Hunger Games, the oppositionary forces. It's like their sensory alarm system to keep the consciousness level of humanity at a certain level.
Right. And then there are some, I feel, on a different spectrum that is trying to get us through that and go, wait, there is so much more than what you are to believe. And I don't want to say love and light, but it's more of like, okay, so let's see what the light or the expansion can bring to you.
Right. So yeah, we can talk about that.
So what has been your experience when you first realized that this was more than just like a spirit or an energy that you knew it was like an alien? You're like, holy shit, this is...
Okay. So there are a couple of instances, but more or less, most of them, the occurrences surround experiences of a certain category, which would be like, I think you and I talked about this a little bit. I'd have a storyline kind of running in my head that almost, it's like a part of a story that wanted me to write it down, particularly in that phase of my life, which was about high school-ish, which would be 2000s, between 2000 and 2005. And anytime it's like I would have brain break daydream time, that's where my head was. it was playing out and witnessing the story, movie, book, like it was witnessing the storyline over and over and over, all these different aspects of it, bringing parts of it together and like revealing different, you know, all this stuff. So I'm like, am I just coming up with something that's really creative and sci-fi and, you know, all of this stuff? Because it's interesting. It started out as one type of story that was influenced by something that I had been reading, but then over the course of a year or two, it evolved into its entirely its own theme, which was indeed actually humanoid reptilians coming to this planet, and a rogue faction of them, a particularly rogue faction of them, experimenting and manipulating with human DNA to its own betterment. This was in high school, and I had no idea about Draco. No idea. I had heard of Atlantis. I knew about ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt was my jam.
Yeah.
Liz. There's like heavy connections to and through Atlantis and ancient Egypt. Not so much like the later Greco-Roman Egypt, but like early Egypt. So that was kind of my first introduction to it before I realized I got an introduction to it. And later in life, when I was out of college, I want to say, I was working on a project and I was listening to some stuff on YouTube, and I came across this gentleman by the name of David Wilcock. Loved a lot of his work, especially his early work. And he was talking about this storyline about how these fucking Draco reptilians that look like these things that I had seen in my head an image of, almost exactly the way he described them. This is the only other time I've ever heard them spoken about. And so he kept describing that same, essentially that same scenario, where it's like early Sumerian, you know, it's kind of like that's the Anunnaki, you know, there's like ties to the Anunnaki and things like that with them, or the Anunnaki being like proto-reptilian human, that, you know, and the power struggle between the good side that wanted to boost humanity and the rogue side that wanted to genetically mutate us to use us as stock and blah blah blah, you know, like for purpose,
right?
For physical purpose. That whole thing, like when he explained that out, and that was like, and it was almost a probably, you know, 10-year difference,
right,
between when those visions had more or less stopped and then hearing this information, and I about fell the flying out of my chair.
Right. Oh, I'm
it
sure.
hit me like a house of ton of bricks. I was like the Wicked Witch of the West under the house. I was like, what? It's like, how could there be information out there that was literally almost word for word, image for image, what I had seen 10 years ago? That what I had seen had no basis. It's not like I had seen any of these kinds of creatures in really anything in the media. I mean, as far as cartoons or anything like that, there's nowhere really where it could have come from, except my imagination. So that's when I started to realize, I was like, oh, we're dealing with psychic transmission.
That's so cool.
And I was like, tapped into the storyline. And then the question of it was trying to figure out more about these beings, who had more information about these beings, and the storyline, and why am I remembering it? Why am I seeing it?
Right.
Why is it relevant for me? Because lots of other people have contact with lots of other different kinds of entities. Why was Draco Reptilian my first? Why? So that set me down on this path that, like, you know, eventually here we are.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, right.
and you know, and right, and then there's been lots of other different contacts of different collectives since, particularly more in these later years as I've purposefully done development on my own self to have that kind of contact. Dreams, more of the visions. There's certain ones where they will do certain synchronicities. That's kind of like their calling card. Well, they'll put that in front of my face where they're like, we got your back, kind of thing. Or in the opposite too, where it's like certain triggers will happen and they're like recurring emotional triggers, or physical things that will happen,
right,
that repeat, almost kind of like if you keep stubbing your toe on the same damn, piece of furniture 6 months apart. It's kind of like the feeling of it is a communication from the other guy to be like, hey, we're watching.
yeah.
So it's literally, in a sense, at this point for me, and it's not every day and it's not constant, but it's definitely weekly, monthly, of some kind of degree, usually mostly positive, but sometimes I still stub my toe. But it's almost like the old cliche of the devil and the angel on the shoulder, where it's like you got a team of people looking out for you to help you progress how you want to progress and get better, or whatever I wouldn't say get better, but it's like
Expansion.
experience more, to experience wholeness.
Yeah.
And have the experience of being human and like not get your head cut off accidentally, right? Over here. But then there's the other guys where it's just like, hey, how much you want to bet we can get her to cry? Hey, you guys hungry? You guys hungry? Let's see if we can bring up some old shit and get her to get pissed off. That would probably be really good. You guys hungry? Yeah, we could get her pissed off. Because guess what? These guys actually feed off the energy.
Yeah.
The anger energy. The more I've learned about what they do, the more you can catch it in those moments, right? But it's like you still notice the influence. It's almost like you can feel a little bit of like nudging this way or nudging that way. But you still, if you are conscious enough, have the free will to make the decision whether or not you want to follow the nudge. But that's how the interactions come for me now.
Yeah.
So
It's
starting with a
fascinating that
storyline and then opened it up.
Right. You
later.
got a validation
Yeah.
through, I forgot the guy's name.
David Wilcock.
Yeah.
And then other people's work too that came along after it, and have people that he quoted and the research that he had looked into. It's like I followed all the little trails and was like,
right. But it snapped. There was something that triggered and helped. And so it's like kind of where was that divine intervention of like, watch this person?
Right. Because that happens a lot.
Oh, yeah. You just have to be, like you said, aware. The more you're like aware of things, the more you're aware of things.
Well, right. And that does seem to be true. Is like the more you validate your own awareness of when moments happen, that either you have synchronicity, you have something line up, you have something shown to you, you end up, I don't know, almost going into a trance and buying 3 books that leads you to open your own business. Like when things like that happen.
Right. Or like for you and me, like
that,
the ride in the car in Hawaii of we're sharing our experiences, and it's like pretty much the same experience.
That was amazing.
We were just like, oh yeah, I do this. Oh yeah, that's yeah. And it was just like, oh my God,
I'm not the only one.
Right.
There's
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
Yes. Yeah, that too. Yeah. Huge sigh of relief that yes, I'm not the only one having these experiences. Okay, cool. I'm not psychotic. Don't need to be medicated.
Right. Please, I promise. I'm not really that crazy.
Right. Yeah. So
That's
that
pretty cool.
so that was more or less, I mean, there's lots of other things along the way we could always talk about too, but that
Sure.
was more
Yeah.
or less it for me when it actually triggered. Where it's like I had these experiences and these visions come through, and then much later, well, not too much later, obviously, but later in life, have them validated by like second and third and fourth and fifth party people talking about their experiences and their research.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me.
That's cool. I love
For
it.
you, how did you do it? How did it come to you? Do you remember?
I do. It actually just came in because I was trying to like go back because my family's always been very open
Mm,
to the aliens.
that's right.
And growing up, though, was really kind of scary because it was about more like focusing on the grays. Like it was always the grays that came up for me. And watched my parents watching movies, and we used to go to the UFO conventions, and you're dragging your kids along to those, and it's probably not the greatest environment for kids when they're talking about certain things and abductions, and you're just like,
Yeah.
fuck,
Yeah.
and um so I grew up with that, and I was kind of always scared of it, so I've always pushed it away. And it wasn't until I started opening and being more aware that we were actually moving from Arizona to Washington, and we were in the car, and I'm just kind of closing my eyes, relaxing, and it was a being that stepped forward and was like, I'm here to support you and to guide you and be there for you. And it was like this vision of this beautiful green alien that had these big red lips and his mascara like eyelashes, and she was just so like alien but just like beautiful, and I felt good, and I was like, oh, this is a different being.
So it was
This
an
is not
image that you had, or like a dream, or did you like see it live, or did you
It was
see
a
it in
vision. It
here?
was in my
Okay.
third eye that I saw it, and but I wrote it down, and
Hmm.
I drew her out the best I could, and I was kind of like, did I just make that up? Was that like, how
Right.
did that come? And I'm like questioning it, but I was like, but she came several different times,
Mm.
and it was when through meditation or channeling, and she would come through, and it was just in my mind's eye, and I would see her, and but I would the feeling, the energy would change, and I felt so like calm, and I felt love, like I felt like good. I felt so good that
Right.
I wasn't scared of her. She looked terrifying because she was so different,
Right.
but I was like, but then I was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. It's like, oh, thank you,
Right. I mean, and that's from what I've heard is like the number one way to tell the difference between the kind of energies that you're dealing with is that even if, like, say for instance, if it's somebody or something masquerading as something positive that isn't, even though it may look beautiful and seem beautiful, like you would feel
Yes,
kind of on edge, like you would feel disturbed, like you would almost feel like you're in danger a little bit.
right.
Like it wouldn't be that like whole encompassed feeling of being supported and almost like you're in a blanket and
Yes,
understood and just like
right. It's
like
such a different
I'm loved.
feeling.
Oh, I'm loved. Yeah, it's
Right.
a totally different feeling. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool that you had that early on, that distinction of being able to feel the different energies,
Yeah.
have that experience.
Right. And so that was really like 5 years ago now.
Oh, nice.
So my whole life always had aliens, but a negative.
Mm.
Sorry, my son. Yeah, you can go play on this one. Shut the door, please. Okay.
This is real life, folks. Anyway, go ahead.
Kids, what are you gonna
No, no, no.
do?
Go ahead.
Yes. So that was my experience 5 years ago, and since then, I've actually been able to interact a little bit more and have other visitors come through, and usually it's at night, and it's right kind of before dream state, and I've woken up to like the room change, the energy vibration is different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, of like, okay, something's here, and then kind of
Mm-hmm.
I close my eyes, I get into it, and that's when I can see him through my third eye. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
see that vibration. So they've been different. All the, you know, I've had different experiences with different kind of beings, and some I'm like, nope, not gonna, nope, you're not allowed, go away. And then there's some
Right.
that I just, they just want to observe
Right.
and
I
see
have
what's
noticed
going
that
on, and
too.
that's it.
It's interesting. Yeah, I have noticed that too. It's like, and when we're talking about ETs, and it's like literally extraterrestrial, which is like almost classified, is really wide ass term, but it classifies as anything that's not like physically, dimensionally terrestrial to the current plane that you would like, that the bulk
Right,
of humanity is on.
right.
That's what ET, for me at least, stands for. So we're talking not just extraterrestrial physically, but also dimensionally,
Yeah.
and like in space and time and light. Because Frank and I actually were talking about this the other day. Of course we were.
Of course.
Um, that, and you and I were too. That the whole, I mean, we, of the light spectrum that's yay big, we see this much of it.
Right. Right. So yeah.
So there is stuff there. We just can't see it. And just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
I mean, how many times, for those of you out there, and I know you and me too, we've seen it, have pets that all of a sudden they just like, they stare off into the corner and they stare. And you can't get them to stop. And they'll follow something
Mm-hmm.
that's not there along the wall. How many times have I seen my cats do that over the course of my lifetime?
Oh yeah.
My dog does it too. And it's, you know, it's not just like squirrel, like, oh, there's an ant up there, or there's a moth or a fly that it's following. Because I, you know, like, you look.
Right. But
Parents
then like
looking.
for us, I tap into it. Like, oh,
Oh
he's
yeah,
over there.
yeah. That's
He's
what,
over
well, I do that
there.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
it
I
now.
start tapping in.
But for like the, I guess the everyday person that might be listening to our wild and crazy ass podcast, like even when your pets are like, what the fuck is that? And they stare, there's a really good chance that there's something there on another wavelength of light that we just don't see, that they can, or they can perceive,
Mm-hmm.
because their senses are set up different than ours. I mean, we think that we understand them because we've biologically taken them apart, but we don't really understand what they see at all.
Oh. Yeah, that's another good topic. Animals. They are
Yeah,
so,
sensitive. Yeah,
oh man.
absolutely. So things like that, where you're dealing with an extra, probably what you would consider dimensional entity, because you can't see it.
Right. It's not always an earthly spirit.
Right. Not always a ghost. So things like that, you know, been called into looking into the shadows. Like, that used to be a thing where, like, shadow people, speaking of things that are observing you,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I used to have what some people would consider shadow people. It started out a little, I wouldn't say malevolent, but it was kind of not, it's like, we're watching you because we want to make sure we know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
because you could be a threat to us, almost. I'm not, you know,
Oh
it's like
yeah.
I was young, so I couldn't fully interpret their intention, but it wasn't always good. And then it changed over time, where it's like the same being would come back and watch, and it's almost like he got fond of me or something, because
Right.
the energy of it changed over time, to where it, like, I would sense the presence in the corner, and it'd just be like, oh, hey, what's up, bro? And I was, you know, in college, or just out of college. So it's like, it changed over time, like from when I was in high school, and I'd be like, oh, dude, that thing's in the corner again. You know, to stop, bro. Walk away. You
Right.
know?
Acknowledging. And I think
And we would
that's
have a
me.
talk. He's like, sup, how's it hanging? And he would, you know, like you'd
Yeah.
get this thought back in your head. You're like, it's good. How you doing today? You're like, it's good. You looking for anything in particular? You know?
Right. Acknowledging them kind of in that relevant way. Yeah. Kick in. They don't like that. And when I started working with the Grays and that line that I've had in my family of like, you know, tied in, and I know that's a whole big subject of family line and aliens, another subject later, but
Yep. Totally.
I was able to really like not be scared of them anymore.
Yeah.
And acknowledge them and see
Yep.
them and like, you don't bother me. Like,
Right.
yeah, let's talk. You want to talk? You
Right.
want to show up? Let's talk.
Right.
What's up?
Right.
And be like, bitch, get the hell. Like,
Like, God
exactly.
damn it. I'm like, all right, she's blowing the mission. God damn it. You know? And yeah, with some of the ones, yeah, you do that too. But it's interesting, it's to then kind of almost get to be friendly with some of these things that end up observing you. Because some of them are just literally, they're not there with any malintent. They're just, you know, it's almost like they're doing their dissertation and they have to pick a human to watch.
Right. Well, okay,
Or
so
several of us.
spin it for a second and think about when you have so many, so you get a lot of the Draco and reptilians that come forward for you because that's probably in your line, right? And you've lived that way, right?
Yeah.
Where whatever you have lived in other lives, like those are, I don't want to say a guide, but almost like your team, right?
Yeah.
Like, are observing you, like, oh, so now you're a human in this life, you know, what's this about? How is she going about? You've been here for this long. Let's explore how she is being a Gray on Earth.
Right. Yeah. It's like they're doing recon.
Yeah.
And it's not malicious. And
No.
it does feel like you're almost part of the team. Like we've made this analogy before, or I don't know if I made it on this podcast yet, but it's almost like if you're talking about going into like that really deep topic of the fact that, you know, a good chunk of the people on this planet right now, their souls are not from Earth. Right. Originally, like this is not their origin, like from time immemorial when their souls were created. This is not origin planet 1 where we started. So for 90 good chunk of us, right? The biggest percentage of us, we're going to have these other lineages attached.
Yeah.
And have them come forward as like, okay, so we've chosen to come here and live this experience also in a deal or a contract with these other souls so that they can watch and not have to come down here themselves.
Right. It's like take one for the team.
It's almost like taking one for the team, but not quite. But yeah, it's like, okay, cool. I'll go down there and you guys can watch me. And you can go down there and I'll watch you. I feel like we trade off places sometimes with our spirit team.
Oh yeah, sure, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We have to. That's how we evolve.
Right. And so it's like, it's almost, you know, like they say that the souls run together, like in packs. And that's why sometimes when you meet somebody, even though that you've never met them before in your life, you all of a sudden walk up to them and it's like, oh my God, sister, how have you been?
Yeah.
You literally never met them before in your life. Oh my God, sister, how have you been? It's been so long. Right? You know, it's like, good to see your face again. You know, you know them. You know them. And so I think like we just run in packs like that around, you know, to go party, you know, around and do stuff. Essentially, I mean, that's a really, really broken down
That's what we
version
have
of it.
time for right now.
Yeah, right. You know, it's a very like broken down version of it, but it's so sometimes those things that you feel around you are just either the beings that you've had experiences with and they're just kind of there to check in and witness and watch for experience, for record keeping, for like, you know, their own learning. Some of it's your team. For a lot of us, we have a lot of team members that are not terrestrial either.
Right. Yes.
A lot of people do have a lot of terrestrials or like ancestral watchers that are, you know, part of their team. It's all very individual, I think, as to what you're trying to accomplish potentially in this lifetime, and also, you know, where you've already been, who you've already collected, you know, relationships and connections with. So it's, yeah, it's all very deep, but it's, you know, alien contact, like you said, doesn't have to be about the abductions and about like all these weird experiences and mutilations and you know, it's like negative impactful things,
Right.
just like I think with humanity that there's some that are, we'll say for the better part, rogue for their own reasons. I think that's across the board. I mean, you see that in animal life where it's just like there's just sometimes one animal that just fucking loses its fucking, you know, it just goes rogue.
Mm-hmm. Right. The races of beings all have, there's good and bad.
Right. Just like there is
Doesn't,
here.
right. Just because it's a gray doesn't mean all grays are bad and evil.
And the same with the reptilians and all these
The
other things that you
reptilians.
learn to find out later. And it's like, oh my God, it all gets so complicated.
Yeah,
It is so complicated.
it is. I think if anybody could take
Complex.
anything away from this is not to fear
No,
them
absolutely.
and not to, I had to move myself out of kind of that, the UFO convention way of what aliens are
Right.
to an energetic way of communicating and having a relationship with other beings that
Right.
are dimensional.
Right. Because what
We're
people
all
have
that
to
way. We're all
realize,
multidimensional. And
exactly. Exactly.
I had to go that way and go,
Yeah.
okay, this is more freeing and
Yeah.
freeing.
So much more freeing.
Feel
But
good about it.
yeah, if well, yeah, it does feel so much better. The
Mm-hmm.
thing I think for people to realize, number one, is that these beings, for the most part, are on a different physical dimensional plane than we are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So their level of communication, their type of communication, how they communicate is different than typical physical 3D Earth human.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the next evolution for us as humanity is to go in the direction that they're already in the sense that however so many of us are turning, you know, are coming through as empaths, coming through with all these intuitive abilities built in, where you can feel how somebody feels and perceive that.
Right.
Because from what I receive, from what I research, from what other people share as their experiences as well, a huge part of interacting with extraterrestrials is actually the use of your emotions
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
psychically.
Right. Yeah.
So
Very
it's
true.
about being aware and being in control of our own feelings, how we feel, how we think. This is practice, this is training,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can take these body models to the next level.
Yeah. Most definitely.
And that's how they're going to communicate with us, though, because that's what they're trying to. Ooh, there's our timer. They're trying to gently guide us forward in the direction of evolution.
Right. What we're all going through right now and experiencing.
Right.
to be in our bodies, to be aware of our bodies, you
Right.
know, and
Right.
be, yeah.
And
Yeah.
any of these entities, right? And really quick though, that any of these entities that are coming through are going to come through psychically, not only because that's just how they communicate most of the time, but it's because they don't want to scare you.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line. Just like your beautiful, crazy looking alien woman, she probably doesn't look like that.
Right. Exactly.
But
They
she's
show up in
coming
a
through,
form
right, in
that
a
you
form
can relate to. Mm-hmm.
that you can relate to, that is something that you could like take wonder in, that
Mm-hmm.
you can be curious about.
Yes.
Like, but their intention is not to scare us. So if you
No.
ever feel scared, then you know that you're dealing with something else.
Right. You got to check into it. You got to
Right.
ask the questions and see, because you could, at first, you could be like, because this thing is
Right.
different than a spirit, but that's where you got to go, okay, is this my fear, or is this something that it's carrying that kind of energy that I don't want to interact with? You know, what?
Right.
And you got to know that field of that energy, your own space. And they'll ask, like, okay, do you have like a message for me, or are you here to drain me?
Right.
Be upfront and honest. Get to the point. You're here for a higher good. Great. Let's be equal. If not, there's the door. See you later.
And that's as hard as it has to be, literally.
Right. Yeah.
To
definitely.
deal with them. Because if you don't you don't have to accept, you don't have to acquiesce, you don't.
Right.
If you are aware and you catch them,
Mm-hmm.
their game is blown for now, so they have to go.
And I want to make this clear too, is I do not call out. They come to me.
Yes.
I have the intention, like I've talked before, if I have the table,
Yeah.
they come to my table. I don't invite or open or, hey, let's, like, unless there's work that I need to do, or I call in somebody that I work with.
Right.
That's different. But I don't just
sit there randomly broadcasting, looking for people to talk to.
Right.
Right. You don't Ouija board yourself.
No.
Let's not talk about the Ouija board. But really, so the point is too, is that any of these inspirations, intuitions, imaginations, like these dream time interactions, if you feel like you're being contacted by a positive being, that you probably are. And it's not a bad thing. It's not anything to be worried about. It doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make you a freak. Indeed, it actually makes you the next evolution of humanity. So, take that to heart. Regardless of, it's like, no, but really, but take that to heart. Regardless of what any of the mainstream or the poor people that are still really highly programmed have to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they're reaching out to you, if you're getting inspirations and visions and seeing these things, or having these moments of channeling or auto writing, having storylines visually come to you, dream time, like, these are signs that there are energies and entities, collectives trying to reach out to you, so that you can start to do your part in the overall global upraisement. Because everybody's kind of got to do their part. There's got to be a threshold that we, those of us who came here to do this kind of thing, got to kind of and get on board.
Yeah.
With ourselves. It's not like everybody has to be out here doing podcasts and stuff. You just got to get on board with yourself, because then that radiates out.
Right.
And that helps the whole. So if they're contacting you, they're contacting you.
Right. Be open to it.
Yeah.
Be open.
Ask questions. They don't mind you asking questions.
Yeah.
Trust
your gut. Trust yourself, man. Trust yourself. That's the biggest thing that I've learned, is trusting myself and what's coming through, and going, you know what? I'm not really crazy. Because now I got someone I can relate to. Like, where are you? Over here.
It's like the Alice in Wonderland sign, right? It's like, which side of the screen am I on today?
But just go with ease with it. If it's easy and flowing and it feels good and that vibration around you feels good, lean into it. take it, write it down what they're talking to you about, or ask them their name, or I always ask, what can I call you? You know, and they'll give me a name I can understand.
Right.
Everybody's got a name, and sometimes it's simple as John.
Right.
Sometimes they say
it's
something
not
crazy, and I'm gonna call you this. Is that cool? Cool. Okay, move on.
Yeah.
So
just be exploratory with it. Be curious. Be aware.
Yes.
Be aware of your surroundings, but don't let, much like with anything, don't let the fact that you have to be aware kill your good time of actually getting to interact with any of these beings that are trying to interact with us to get us to do our thing and be the best that we can be and what we want to be.
Yeah.
And enjoy our experience here, because that's how we're going to raise the vibration of the planet.
Truth.
End of story. So
yeah. Good call.
Hallelujah to that. Amen. 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 Anybody who gets that, kudos to you. Drop it in the comments. Love you guys. Nobody even really gets that, like the historical thing about it. So there's your hint. We're going to start playing a game. It's kind of like, who wants to play a game? Get into metaphysical saw.
Lock in a room. What being is what?
I promise you guys we're not going to make anybody cut off their hands. So, yes. Aliens. Good time.
Aliens.
Good talk.
I love aliens. I really do.
I do too.
They're great. They're so much fun.
They're an interesting time, an interesting experience. It's and only more weird shit to come, no doubt.
Oh man.
Exciting. I hope
things we can.
I hope I live to see the day physically in my lifetime that we actually have positive contact and interaction.
Okay, well, hold on. Haven't we already?
No, I mean physical. Excuse me, positive physical contact interaction.
Worldwide, I hope so too. I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime.
I want it to be in our lifetime.
Oh, of course I do.
Hurry the F up, everybody.
No, well, that's the thing. Like, if
up.
Right now, everybody can just fucking expand and be happy. Move on. Just get rid of everything and just let the aliens come down and let's live all like we used to. Let's make it Atlantis again.
Okay, the good vert. Can we put a stipulation on that? Hold on.
The first birth of Atlantis. Where everything was bountiful and fruitful.
Before we went all psychotic with the energy.
Right? We took that to another level.
Oh, we're not going to get into our past lives in Atlantis, Dallas. Come on, we don't have time for that. But yeah, so aliens, good time. But yes, I do hope to see potentially it's like physical positive contact in our lifetimes where it's like we actually, like if I could have a physical alien pen pal, that, like I would die happy. If I helped humanity get to the point where we could actually have physical alien pen pals, I would be like, all right, I accomplished a good mission. Good run, good game. All right, good game. I'm going to take the next few games off. I'll see you in the off season. All right.
I want a friend like Doctor Who. I want him to come and get his TARDIS, and we'll go bounce and travel some dimensional stuff. I want to do that.
I'll sign up for that joyride too. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'll be a companion.
Right? Oh my God, totally. All day.
I know. So fantasized anyway. But we love, definitely enjoyable. I love me some Doctor Who. So much of that stuff is disclosure, you guys. You just don't even know.
I know. That's why I'm like,
Before we get into another tangent, this is getting long, but thank you for watching all of the bloopers, you guys. Oh my God, we love you so much. We love all of you new subscribers. Thank you guys. Like and share and subscribe and all the good stuff. If you have any topics for us, comments, questions, anything, please throw it down below. We always love hearing from you guys. Love how we could make this show better for you. What kind of topics you might want to listen to, format, all the things. So from us to you, we love you, and look out for our alien friends, and say hello. And until we see you next time, thanks for watching Galactic Explorers.
Bye.